Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.
So it begins.
So, party people. Welcome to our the Jared Cast review of Atlanta Season 3. They didn't have a special title this season. Season 2 was called Robin Season. I don't know what I would even call this one. European Tour.
Euro trip.
Euro trip,
Is that copyrighted already?
I don't know. But yeah, this is an interesting season for sure. And it kind of deals with a lot of the same themes, a lot of the same vibes, but it goes way crazy in other directions for sure. And so I'm very excited to talk about it. I being Jared Uncommon. With me is Jared Lombardo. How are you doing today, Jared? What's up?
Hello. I'm good. I'm a tired boy because I'm always a tired boy. Yeah, I mean I'm good. It's been a crazy, hectic week, but like we're on the weekend for me, so it's smooth sailing from here on out. So I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I saw the Bob's Burgers movie. Was very happy with it.
Good.
I also started Stranger Things. Started Kenobi. I've watched all the episodes so far for Kenobi, and pretty good like cowboy movie.
Yeah. Okay, worth watching.
So far. We're got some Ewan McGregor. I would recommend watching the two back to back because the first one's very slow, but it pays off. And then Stranger Things, I've only seen episode 1, and that one is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
The episode.
I think I'm gonna binge that entire thing today.
Very cool.
If I had to guess.
The episodes are hella long, so I'm probably gonna have to take my time with it, but it's all good. That happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first episode was a pretty nice knockout, pretty chaotic, but still well executed.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very good TV this year. I'm very happy with the TV.
Including, but not limited to, Atlanta.
Yeah.
Which we have a very Atlanta-based top 5 today.
Yes, indeed.
We're doing top 5 movies starring the cast of Atlanta. So we're just tying it in, basically. Is all.
Yeah.
This was a tough one. I tried getting a spread of characters, but one of the actors has a much better catalog than the rest of them.
Yes.
Which will be apparent by list. You want to kick us off? You want to take number 5 for us?
Sure. I love my number 5. We just reviewed it this year. Because spoiler alert for Atlanta. It's gonna start soon. The spoilers. In episode 10 of season 3, Alexander Skarsgård plays himself. And so, for my number 5, I picked The Northman. I believe it counts. He does play an exaggerated version of himself, and a kind of parody of European stars and all that stuff, and in a role that was originally written for Ryan Gosling. I think he killed it. I was reading some of the interviews with Stephanie Robinson, who wrote the episode, and she said Alexander only agreed to dance half naked if he could wear a leopard print briefs. So, yeah, he wears he's equally, I think, visceral and equally insane in The Northman, and so I went with The Northman for my number 5.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know why. I just limited myself to the main like 4 or 5, which was stupid because like you got Liam Neeson in this season as Liam Neeson. You've got like
I was this close to
Chet
picking
Hanks.
National Treasure.
Has Chet Hanks been in any movies? Um,
I don't know.
yeah, so it's for my list, great pick, by the way. You know I love that movie. For my list, I limited myself too damn much unnecessarily.
It's all good.
And my number 5 reflects that because it's kind of just a mediocre movie. But I think it was better than I thought, even if it is still kind of just a mediocre movie. It has Deadpool 2, starring Zazie Beetz. I mean, like, for a sequel to a great movie, I went in with low expectations, and it exceeded them. I still had a lot of fun in the theater. Is it a masterpiece? Probably not. But would I watch it again and just have fun and eat some popcorn? Absolutely. Why not? Fuck it. So it made my list. It beat out Joker, so we'll give it that. Spoiler, not on my list.
Yeah.
So my number 5 was Deadpool 2.
Yeah, she's great as Domino and actually captured that character really well. And I think the movie's worth it alone for the baby leg scene.
Yeah, that part is that and the pegging joke is
Yes.
just makes it worth it.
Yeah. I also went to the main cast as well. I started doing that at first for the top 5, and then I was like, nah, I need one white dude just to make it fun. But my number 4 has barely any white dudes in it. I don't think. Yeah, it's called The Harder They Fall. It recently came out on Netflix, or just last year actually. Starring Jonathan Majors, Regina King, Idris Elba, even Lakeith Stanfield. So this is a 2-in-1. But Zazie Beetz plays a gunslinger as well in that one. They're both gunslingers. They don't really interact because they like. Do you want me to say like? I'm not gonna say
go
like
for it.
spoilers, but like Lakeith is on the bad.
You have my permission.
Yeah, Lakeith is on the bad guy team, and Zazzy's on the good guy team, and so they get matched up differently. But yeah, it's a really really badass movie, super stylish. There's the opening song of the credits is like Jay-Z and Kid Cudi, and like they use like old western like the sound of the weird high pitched sound of like the bullets bouncing off of
really?
surfaces as in the beat. It's really cool. Yeah, and it's just leading into the idea that like, you know, it wasn't all the same looking dude over and over again in cowboy times. Like other people existed too, and so it's a really fun movie. Highly recommend it. You get to see Zazie Beetz with a shotgun. It's fun.
Yeah, what's not to love about that? Nice. I'm gonna have to check it out. My number 4 is one that I don't think I've heard anybody mention, even though I don't think it's like some hidden gem of a movie. Like I think it did well, but for some reason it's just never come up, and I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it thoroughly. For being a kind of heavy-handed drama at times, and it's got an insane cast, including Lakeith Stanfield playing next to Brie Larson, Remy Malek, John Gallagher from 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's Short Term 12. It's fantastic, man. It's if you don't know, Brie Larson plays like a counselor at a at-risk teen center. And it's great. Lakeith absolutely kills it. He plays one of the at-risk teens. And he fucking nails it, man. It's cool to see him in like a more heavy-handed, dramatic role, and still knock it out of the park. So thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Highly recommend if you're interested.
I agree. I agree. Um, I haven't seen the whole thing of Short Tim 12. I definitely should. But I've seen the clip of them interacting, which is fun. Um,
Yeah.
Speaking of heavy-handed drama, I got Judas and the Black Messiah as my number three. I think this is an awesome historical movie. I think I put it at number three in the year it came out when we did our rankings, and I'll probably change that because it's probably my like rewatching it. It's probably my number one of that year. It's not just a drama; it's also kind of a psychological thriller and a mystery, and a piece of history that's kind of been lost in the books that we show to kids. And there's a lot of stuff in the Cold War that happened that we don't teach students. And yeah, this is a great slice of history, a great portrait of what it was like to try and stand up for justice and all that stuff. And yeah, it's a really really interesting performance by Lakeith Stanfield playing a very unsympathetic character, but very like understandable as well.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic fucking movie. We both gushed about it already, so I'll spare the audience now. But it's definitely worth a watch if people haven't seen. Narrowly missed my list because I didn't want too many Lakeith Stanfield movies on here. Essentially, it would have been on, but
Yeah.
I just had to cut it because of that. And we're keeping that ball rolling with my number three. Probably the closest in tone to Atlanta on this list. It's also within that Afro surrealism genre, and that's Sorry to Bother You. I
Very
fucking
cool.
love Sorry to Bother You. I recently rewatched it to show Mango it, and we had to stop it before like the ending, before it like gets absolutely batshit crazy. And I'm like, no, you think this movie's weird, but like it's not. You haven't gotten to the weird parts yet. But it's hilarious. It's poignant. It's surreal as all hell. And it's just a fun ride the entire time. I absolutely love it. If you like Atlanta, you'll like this movie, especially season three. I think it has big season three energy. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't.
I agree. Um, yeah, it's absolutely insane. The only reason it didn't make my list was because actually my favorite performance in that movie is Armie Hammer.
As himself, but not as himself.
I don't know, man. We'll see. Yeah. My number two is a voice acting role. Brian Tyree Henry is a fantastic character actor, a fantastic actor in the indie world and in the mainstream superhero world. But hearing any member of this cast do voice acting is always a fun little surprise. But the way they wrote Richard Jefferson and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is very different from the comics, and so I was very, very intrigued by the character. I didn't even know it was. I couldn't tell that it was Brian Tyree Henry until after when the credits were rolling. But he's such a key part playing Miles Morales' dad, and he starts out with kind of the dopey dad, kind of lame cop vibes, and then ends up being like one of the beating hearts of the movie because he has that line. It's like, I see the spark in you, Miles, and it gets me a little choked up. And then they play it again in Miles' head right before he takes the jump off the building, and I just start weeping, man. It's so good. I freaking love that movie.
Yup. Yeah. Incredible movie.
Yeah.
Hot take. Fantastic film. Yeah. My number two is the smallest role that any of them play
Oh yeah.
on my list. but it's just that good of a movie that I couldn't not include it. And I probably need to put this on my stop talking about in top five list because it tends to keep creeping its way back in. And that's Get Out. Um, yeah, he's not like the main character, but he is a important catalyst for the plot. Important realization point for the main character. I don't know. I'm like trying not to spoil it, even though I feel like everybody's seen it. But his small role, he does excellent, and the film as a whole was fucking fantastic. Such a tightly written script and such a amazing execution of it. So I had to include Get Out as my number two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that came out the year after season one dropped. And so I was rewatching season one with my parents at the time, and so it was just a great like double treat of Lakeith.
Yeah.
That guy's the real deal, man. Because he really just like fully embodies every character that he plays, no matter how big or how small. It's really he's really an inspiration. You might even say he's my muse, such as in my number one, Uncut Jobs.
Yeah. I hate that I could see where that was going once you said Muse, and I'm still into it. I still love it. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, playing Damani, a guy working in the jewelry world. Yeah, he has that famous line from the trailer, "Black Jew Power," and yeah, he looks great in the movie. He has so many great scenes with the Sandman, and that movie is to me just amazing and super enjoyable. Very very stressful, not for everybody, but I highly recommend to those who can handle it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a fantastic movie. I love it. And it just didn't make my list because it was another Lakeith movie, and I felt bad including it. Because I can't have all five just be him. As much as I would like to. And he's not in my number one. However, there's a bit of crossover because my number one has been mentioned, and that's Into the Spider-Verse.
Woo!
Yeah, I think he absolutely kills it as Miles's father. You wouldn't expect him to be a fatherly character, like at least from what I've seen in his other roles. And so it's cool seeing him branch that direction. You also get a tiny, tiny Donald Glover role in here,
Yeah.
but it's not the meat of where this cast shines in this film. It's definitely all about Brian for me. And the movie's like a fucking 10 out of 10, so it's gotta be my number one.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. I love it. I love that we both didn't include Donald Glover.
Yeah, kind of. He's really. What are we? His movie roles, like what is that? The Martian, like
Martian. That's pretty much it.
Still waiting on that Community movie. Once that happens, then
Now he's
then
starting
we'll
on
talk.
another series. Come on, man.
Yeah, impossible. But good list, fun top five.
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
I thought about doing Guava Island, and I was like, do I really want to do this? No.
Do clapping for the wrong reasons just to get just to get Donald Glover in there.
Yeah, man.
I like to think his music videos are real chronological films, so
Yep. Yep. Yeah, man. Speaking of Donald Glover, creator of the amazing show Atlanta.
but it's not amazing to everybody because we've got this installment of Jared reads poorly written reviews of the shows we're watching because it's funny and it makes them laugh and stuff. This installment, comes from Varkirs. Gave it a 1 out of 10, saying, never heard of the director before. No talent,
What?
bad choice of actors. Movie has terrible plot, cliche dialogue, bad acting, hammy delivery, unnecessary woke stuff. WWGOWAG. Not sure why this is something you would want impressionable children to see unless you want them brainwashed with right-wing media Republican nonsense.
No.
Just incorrect on all levels. Not even the right media.
Stupid, dude.
Oh, yeah.
That was a gem. That was a gem.
An uncut gem. I do have one more if you want it. It's not as good, but it's still worth a read if you want it. All right. This is from ASC 85, 1 out of 10. The pitch for season 3. I wanted like a season 3 specific. The last one also was like 2022, but you know what I'm saying. I have this great idea for season 3. For our first 10 episodes of season 3, we will have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 episodes that have absolutely nothing to do with the show that we've been doing for the last 2 seasons. We'll just hire a whole new set of actors and actresses to do one-off episodes on issues I have very strong feelings about. And since everyone considers me a genius, you're going to go along with it. I mean, when you watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and all shows are about that, the same thing with a show like Stranger Things, that's boring. Let's do it my way. Trust me, it'll kill.
Come on, man.
It's never really been had a through plot line. Just about world building, my dude.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It is interesting, though. Like, I never do this. I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes, actually. And the audience score was like 67%.
Really?
Yeah. And the critic score was like 98%. Like, most people loved it. There was one person, like, in the Washington Post who was, like, writing this really, like...
damn Republican propaganda.
Nothing that atrocious. But she just wasn't satisfied with the stuff, with what they had. But the audience members, like, when I was reading what they were writing, it's like they didn't even watch it. Like, I was like, they literally say it in the show. I don't know. My dad told me a couple episodes ago. He's like, you need to stop attacking people. I'm like, sorry, people are just stupid.
Yeah, I do feel bad for the bad reviews section because it's literally just bullying people for saying their opinion that's different than ours. But like you get gems like Quinn Chow in there, and it's all in good fun. Like we're not mad because they dislike it. We're mad because why they dislike it.
Exactly. But yeah, as you may have gathered, maybe from those reviews, Atlanta season 3 is very different from season 1 and Robin season. It does follow the main cast outside of Atlanta. They're on Alfred Paperboy is on tour in Europe, mostly Amsterdam, and Van goes to follow them. Darius is still with him. He's his best friend, and Ernest's still there. He's still his manager. He's still killing it. He seems to be, and all three of them seem to be more kind of, I guess, in control of who they are, and more sure of themselves. And yet, those doubts persist because just because they've left Atlanta, just because they've left the United States, doesn't mean that their problems won't follow them. Same with Zazie Beetz' character, Vanessa. She is half European. She is European, and yet she still continues to struggle with her identity. A lot of people in the audience review section were saying like, "Oh, this came out of nowhere." I'm like, no, she like literally had an episode about uh, struggling with the part of her that is black, and struggling with the part of her that is German, and literally struggled with the part of her that's a mother, and so this is a culmination of all of that, and I think it's done very, very beautifully. But yeah, the movie, the show also focuses on themes of Jared mentioned it earlier, Afro surrealism. The Afro surrealist theme kind of touches on personal identity themes, the theme of rewriting history, and the theme of curse of whiteness. I don't know if you picked up on any others, but I also want to like say, like, as you could tell from the logo when you clicked on this thing, I am not black. Um,
What?
Neither is my co-host.
I'm not. Yeah.
This isn't a lecture on what black media means, or critical race theory or anything like that. I'm not an authority on any of that stuff. I'm just gonna interpret what I see and what I hear in the show. But yeah, what I think this show is excellent. I think this season is excellent. There are a couple, like, maybe like a couple boring moments in some of the episodes, but other than that, it's fantastic. It's cinematically gorgeous. They have their own look and they stick with it, but they still push it, especially, and it still works in another setting that's not Atlanta. The fact that they changed the show so much, but still kept a lot of those same themes prominent, and used the kind of, not spin-off, but like short film episodes to comment directly on the show itself and comment on controversies. Racial controversies, another big theme in this one. In this season, and several episodes apply to that theme directly. Yeah, I think I think all the performances are we've seen these actors grow outside of Atlanta, and so seeing them come back to Atlanta is just fantastic. Hiro Murai is on another level as a director. I'm gonna give it a 9.8. I think it's a fantastic season of Atlanta.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think I could see why this one would be pretty divisive, and probably the most divisive season so far. Um, that said, as a fan of like anytime they've done bottle episodes, like the Montague Show or like Teddy Perkins or like any of the like more bottled episodes of previous seasons, they've all been like some of my favorites, if not my favorite of that season. Like it's so when I realized that that was going to be more prevalent in this season, I was excited for it. I love the main cast, and they're all insanely talented, and I think they do shine the brightest when they're or the show shines the brightest when those characters are involved. Um, but the way that they like do cartoony versions of reality and like this exaggerated, um, almost like political based commentary is fantastic, and the execution is always there, and so it's never lackluster. I'm never like disappointed by a single episode this season, or in the entire show so far. I have nothing but praise for this season. There are a few episodes that I think um, were like weaker, but there's like three that I gave just 10 out of 10. Like it's still, the caliber is still like insanely high. I absolutely love it. I think cinematically they still like managed to improve on previous seasons. Like I said, the cast is fantastic. The music still kicks ass in this. And across the board, just a fantastic season of television. And I'm excited to see how it progresses. Like I'm just ready for season 4 at this point. I'll give it a. I'll do like 9.7. I rated each individual episode, and I never gave a score for the whole season, but like 9.7 I think would be the average episode score.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I dread the idea of trying to compete season 3 against season 4 when I rank the shows that I watched this
Yeah.
year.
That's gonna be tough. I mean, we'll see. Maybe season 4 is just gonna be trash. Like we don't know
Maybe.
yet. We haven't
Maybe.
seen it.
Yeah. But I was watching. They had an interview at South by Southwest when they premiered the first 2 episodes, and like he was saying like we just wanted to have fun for season 4, and I was like, damn it, it's gonna be awesome. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be great.
Fuck.
It's also the first time I heard Stephen Glover talk, and he talks the same exact way as Donald Glover.
Oh, really?
And it's so funny because they both have the same laugh. They both talk like they're high. Yeah, they both mumble. Yeah. I forget how we do TV. So we usually do start with
themes
characters.
or characters. I don't know. We just kind of bounce around and do whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, we could do characters first. This is interesting because we have 8 protagonists instead of 4. But we can go through them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Any notes on Ern?
Yeah, I think he probably has the smallest arc. Well, him and Darius, but he is one of the smallest arcs in this season, which I think was like kind of refreshing because the show has been so centered on him. I feel like that it's kind of nice to like flesh out the other people and have him step into more of a directing role for a lot of the episodes here. But that said, I liked his character a lot this season. He kind of takes a more responsible role. Not that he wasn't as Paperboy's manager in the previous seasons too. He always has to have that like kind of responsible, like keep the ducks in a row type mentality. But this season he like really takes it into his own. You see his talent as a manager. He's like swindling money off people left and right to try to cover Paperboy's ass. The reveal that he like genuinely has paperbacks, Paperboy's back when it comes to the Masters in the last episode. It's just great to see that he's like genuinely a fantastic manager and he's like getting shit done. And that's great. Like he doesn't change a lot throughout this season. He doesn't. There's not a ton of development on his part, at least from what I noticed and took note of. But they do his character justice for giving him such a smaller piece of the pie this season.
I agree. Yeah, and I think I have a feeling that like all the short films are his dreams. Not just the first episode, 3 slaps. There's nothing really to support that, but we do see that like a lot of these kind of one-offs are kind of like they directly speak to what he is encountering in Europe. Especially the 3 slaps, you know, if like the Laquarius's mother says, you know, if you don't use your common sense, these white people are going to kill you. And then, you know, in Santa Claus is Coming to Town, they use their common sense to not play the concert.
Yeah. Not play to a crowd of blackface.
Yeah, and like you know, he has had like racist encounters in Atlanta and has had to deal with that in a weird place where, you know, this whole thing feels like home. Atlanta feels like home, but it's also this kind of nightmarish place that you got to be on your toes for. And I feel like this is just a continuation of that, and maybe a tee up for season 4 where he has to reconcile those things in a more coherent way. But I just love that they took it that far with this one, like actually talking about the fact that, even though Europe is like, a lot of people put Europe on this pedestal, European countries on this pedestal of like, oh, look, they've got all this free stuff, they've got all this, like, they've got less violence, they've got less, they've got less prisoners. Well, yeah, but they've also got all these like really sinister, racist things underlying in everyday society, and so. I think that his character is mostly there just to show us that is there, and that this exists. It's not really there to. I think we'll see the fruits of what he goes through here in season 4.
Yeah, especially with that last shot in the after credit scene of the last episode. They pretty heavily tie in that, like, the bottle episodes are like short film or whatever. The separate episodes are gonna kind of tie back in. At least they heavily allude to it. It's gonna be disappointed if they don't. I'll be kind of blue balled on that, but yeah, I'm with you. I think they were all his dreams, or at least somewhat related to him in some capacity. Because I don't know, his character. Um, Even in the episode where they lose Paperboy's phone, the kid brings attention to it. He's like, "Oh, you were told you talk white, and like you have like this air of like kind of using whiteness," and that ties into the second to last episode, the rich wigga poor wigga episode.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so like I think they all like pretty heavily tie into him. I'm just curious to see exactly how, and see if they fully commit to tying that knot together.
Yeah. I think that was a wonderful reveal, saying that, like, because in the credits of Three Slaps, Thomas Seagal, who played the guy with the orange vest, is just credited as white guy, and then in what's it called, The Big Payback, he's credited as E, because he introduces himself as E, and I'm like, oh, it's interesting that they chose the letter E.
Yeah.
And then they reveal, like, oh, it actually is his exact name. Like, that's, yeah. So I was like, I was very, very happy with that reveal. Like, okay, so this is a doppelganger or a nightmare version of himself or something like that. But it's unclear for now. But it is it is very, very cool. And like, yeah, like, we'll, I'm sure we'll talk more about the big payback
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I hope the guy who plays White Earn is in season 4, because he was great. His
was awesome.
monologue was fucking fantastic in that episode.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him crop up again.
Hell yeah. The other main character, Al, Paperboy. How you feel about his arc?
It's good. I think he obviously shines brightest in his mostly solo episode. Darius and Erd are both around, but it's great to see him like work through like cancel culture, mommy issues, like pretty much everything that we haven't really seen to that character. We don't know a ton about his background apart from his like relationship to Earn, growing up on the streets, and like kind of in between that area. And so it was super nice that they like fleshed out in a real surrealist, like batshit insane way. But it's nice that we got more background on him, and seeing him like kind of move forward in his development was absolutely fantastic as well. his attitude this season is even better. He's kind of always had like a sick of it type air about him. And so seeing him just like kind of brushing people off, and I keep going back to New Jazz. But seeing him like kind of get comeuppance for that in a way is super cool. And I'm excited to see uh, how he develops from what he learned this season. Because this season really seemed to be like the first time he's looked within himself and kind of reflected on that. And I think it'll help him develop as an artist in the show and as a person on the show. I'm just excited to see what he does with the information he kind of got about himself this season.
Definitely, yeah. I agree, and we definitely see that in the Old Man in the Tree, where it's a continuation of that kind of the Alpha surrealism thing, which is I think pretty recently coined. Like I don't know who coined it first, but I don't think they were talking about that in season 2. But the idea that, like, yeah, as a celebrity and as a black celebrity, you don't know who your friends are. You don't know who you can really count on, especially in a community that thrives on community and thrives on trust and thrives on, like, we gotta lean on each other, and we gotta lean on family especially. Um, it's something that Don Glover has talked about since season 1, and I'm happy that it still persists, especially in that character. I do agree, like the stuff. I do agree with you. The stuff about his personal identity was really interesting, especially in Cancer Attack and White Fashion, where he has to figure out like what kind of what his role is as a black celebrity, and what his, well, in Cancer Attack it's what is his role as an artist, and in White Fashion it's what is his role as a celebrity, and then New Jazz kind of ties all three of those up, like Old Man in the Tree, Cancer Attack, and White Fashion all together, by having him encounter a prostitute who reminds him of his mother, or a ghost of a prostitute who reminds him of his mother. I don't know. Yeah, so beautiful, and Brian Tyree Henry is brilliant.
Yeah, seeing him deal with like the fame monster in so many different ways this season was excellent. Like obviously you have like the in New Jazz where everybody's like kind of on him and like chasing after him literally. But like in like you said in White Fashion, like the responsibility that he feels to give back to his community in some way. He has a line early in the episode before he kind of realizes his role, where he's like, "Fuck the streets, I shot people." Like he's like, "What they do for me?" Like whatever. And seeing him like over the course of 24 minutes go from that to like, we need to do something to give back to people from where I came from and in situations like where I came from. It's super cool to see him kind of make that realization and realizations similar to that throughout the season, instead of just being kind of this apathetic, clout chasing, like underground rapper. Now that he's made it on some level, he's not like selling out stadiums or anything. But now that he's like found fame and found success, morally, what's his obligation from here? And I love that they like explored that, and I think they did a good job hitting it without it making it like the focus of the season.
I agree. Yeah, season 3 is so interesting because it is a transition to the end, not necessarily the end, and so a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here won't pay off for another few months. But in Trinity de Bon, we do get a small teaser of Al on a poster that says the Homecoming Tour. So I think
It's actually in the background of a lot.
Oh, really? Okay,
I
I
think
didn't.
so. I think I saw it might have been for other shows, but his posters are like littered throughout the season. Like they're
Okay,
always like just kind of back there.
hell yeah, hell yeah. Um, yeah, man. Darius. Notes on Darius.
It's always the greatest. Always just the goat. Yeah, I mean he's always such a ridiculous little Sherpa boy, and I love him. He he is kind of always been the comedic relief, or a comedic relief in the show.
Yeah,
But I think he brings a nice spirituality to it. I think he brings like a nice like we're all on a path type mentality, and so like your control varies depending on the situation you're in, and it always kind of guides other characters. You see this early on when he and Van, I think episode 2, where they go to Tupac's funeral.
yeah,
You see him like kind of guide her through like mortality and like why she's ended up here. The first like question he asks when she's like, "You could ask me something real," is like, "What are you doing here? Like, what's your purpose?" And I think that's kind of his role throughout the thing. In New Jazz, he's like just sending Paperboy on his journey to find his purpose and the reason why he's uh, on this trip in like a spiritual sense. And I think he plays that role incredibly. I love him in that role. Um, but also like his little tangent episodes like in White Fashion where he's just like, I just want some good food, and then gentrification takes it away immediately, is also good because he is a strong character who can't stand on his own, and he doesn't need to have that like um, that kind of guidance role, or he doesn't need to be paired with somebody else all the time. He also stands very strongly on his own, and so this season he wasn't like uh, his journey wasn't the most important, but I think he was important to the most journeys.
yeah, yeah. I think we've talked about it before, but Darius is my favorite character in the season or in the series, and um, he like ever since he first pulls out a knife while still holding his cake
Yeah.
to try and kill Ern, or if Ern tries anything, like I've been sold on the character.
Yeah, for me it was the can I measure your tree?
So good. God, what a great first episode. And we don't see him push to his limits the same way as in Teddy Perkins.
No.
But he, yeah, I agree with your analysis. I think, kind of playing a support this season, and still getting that awesome episode with his Nigerian heritage, because I is this the first time that they've even revealed that he was Nigerian?
No, I think even as early as the first, because he says that he hates Nigerians in the first episode, and Paperboy's like, "Aren't you Nigerian?" He's like, "Yeah, that's kind of like our thing," or something like that. So they've mentioned it, but they never dove in the way they did in this episode.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's very cool the way, like, to kind of see him come alive when he encounters that food for the first time in years, and it made me want to try it.
Yeah, I right after that episode aired, I went to San Francisco, and one of the first things I looked up was like Nigerian food near me because I was like, I want to try some jollof rice. Like that shit looked tasty as fuck.
Yeah.
Was unsuccessful though. It was
Yeah.
closed that day.
I was talking to a friend of mine from Nigeria, and they were like, "Yeah, you got to go to either New York or Washington D.C." I'm like, "Come on, man."
Better book that flight, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a heartbreaking thing too, because like it also tied him into the curse of whiteness theme, where it's like these people really think that they're helping. Like they really think that they're like doing a good thing, and that's the scariest part about it. Is like they don't even realize the damage. They don't even, and the damage to them is perceived as a kind of as like not even it's not even perceived. Yeah. One of the more controversial arcs was Van. I said I was reading some of the audience reviews, and although a lot of people did like it and a lot of people understood it, a lot of people, like, even though they liked the series overall, they felt like Van's kind of character arc was out of nowhere, and the turn was out of nowhere. But yeah, I got some stuff to say about it. But what are your notes on Van?
Yeah. I think she is the best arc in the season, and I don't even think it's close. Like I think she steals the season. She has kind of the most cohesive arc this season, I would say. You really see like her kind of slowly descend into this escapist, like just forego all reality, and just enter like this weird headspace of like back home doesn't matter. I could reinvent myself in the worst ways. Because like in early episodes in the season, you see her stealing stuff. Like even in the old man in the tree, she's like stealing shit off the dude's shelves and stuff, which is a habit that we know from previous seasons, and one that's like toxic. And she's like stealing a wig from a wig store, which we eventually get a payoff in the final episode. And so you see her like slowly descend, even as early as like the very first episode with her, her and or the first episode with her, the second episode where she and Darius, and she's like kind of already frantic and losing it, and like doesn't have clothing, and like it's all just weird and off from the beginning, and so seeing like that she just has taken being a single mother, whose baby daddy is off in a different country, like fulfilling his dreams without her, and leaving her kind of behind and dealing with her identity crisis at the same time as this. It's fantastic. It's just cool seeing her like slowly descend. And I think I didn't really catch on to it when I was watching weekly. It's a lot more like cohesive than it let on when I was rewatching. Because watching like episodes back to back to back, her just like popping up, like being this kind of disastrous mess, and then disappearing for weeks and days at a time. I loved it, and I think it's a fantastic payoff. We'll get into our favorite episodes, but the last one is incredibly high on my list, and so like I think they did it justice by like giving her the finale like almost singularly. I think it wraps the season up nicely, because I think in a way it's her season.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it doesn't feel like it when you're watching it weekly. Like, I'm like, what's going on with Van the whole time?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, and so it's such a beautiful mystery that they keep pulling all the way through, and it's funny and it's heartbreaking. I think the only two moments that made me cry was okay, three. When she was saying like it's okay to Tupac, and then I like started crying, and then they dropped the thing, and I was like, and then I just stopped, like my whole brain just stopped,
Yeah.
and then they started playing Hail Mary, and I started laughing again, and I was like, this is the most twisted thing I've
And
ever seen.
that's Atlanta right there.
That is Atlanta, yeah, yeah, man. And then also when we find out the name of Al's mother. And then also, I think when she has that final meltdown in the kitchen, and she realizes kind of what she's done and what's happened to her. I'm curious Have you read about Tarare?
So before this, I remember watching some video on like him as a person and like the
Yeah.
background of it, and I did not expect it to ever come up in my life again. And so when I saw that, I was like, "What the fuck?" Okay, but you should definitely recap for the audience as well
So
as me.
Tarare was a real guy. He was around, I think, in the 1880s, 1890s. He kind of became this circus freak who could eat anything. Yeah, so a kind of French horror story from history. And Van is given that nickname in the last episode, both because she traffics human flesh for cannibals, and kind of earns that nickname on the streets. But I think the nickname also applies metaphorically. I think she's kind of consumed this Amelie identity and consumed this other identity that is contrary to who she actually is, because she doesn't know who she actually is. We don't really know, and so I think the choice to do that was a brilliant little a brilliant thing on the part of the writing team. And also, it would have been easy just to name the episode Amelie, but they didn't. I think the Terraria metaphor is a super unique thing. I didn't know about it until I saw the episode title on Hulu, and then I was like, okay, let me Google this thing before we watch the episode. And so,
And the description is like, "Yo, this is a real person." Like they like clearly want you to like look into it too.
yeah,
Yeah, I also think it has to do with like, because he was never satiated like his
Yes.
whole life, and I think that also applies entirely to Van. She's like clearly not like satisfied with her life back home, and so because of that, she like takes on this weird cannibal Amelie persona, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And that's not a healthy way to live, obviously. And so her breakdown in that final episode is the most powerful part of the season, I think.
yeah, man, so good, so good. Did you want to go into the other protagonists or talk about? We could just say like, I don't know, whatever.
Of like the bottle side episodes.
Yeah,
maybe.
there's Laquarius, there's Marshall Johnson, there's Miles Warner, and
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yeah, I mean we
could
can
just talk about them
and
as a
then,
whole.
like, yeah, or like the themes because they all have like what they want to say about blackness and black culture and like how you fit in the world. And I think they tie back into the characters fairly easily, almost.
Cool. Yeah. Thoughts on Laquarius?
I love it. I love that episode. Then it's such a weird way to start it. I forgot because it's loosely based off real events, but I forgot where or who was involved. But I think it's Laquarius is interesting because he's kind of a victim. He never incites the change into the foster care system, despite his mom kind of thinking he did and accusing him of that. But I love that he does have agency to get himself out of this situation, and it shows like the resilience that he needs so early in life, and like he just like is immediately thrown into this in order to fight for literal survival, and survival like as a young black kind of lower class human in America. And I loved it. I think it's a fantastic episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it was inspired by the Hart family murders, which was a murder suicide involving Jennifer Hart, and her wife Sarah, who killed themselves and their 6 adopted children. And this is in California. This actually wasn't in Atlanta. Yeah. L'Aquarius is loosely based on Devonte Hart, whose body was never found, but he's presumed dead. Yeah, it's interesting that they chose a situation that was so horrible and so heartbreaking, and really made it like, and kind of really showed us both the terror in it and the comedy in it, and did this really awesome thing of rewriting history. We see the rewriting history not just in this episode, but in Rich Wigga Poor Wigga, and in The Big Payback, where all these bad people are forced to confront things that they've done to the Black community, and yeah, it's such a satisfying payoff to see kind of L'Aquarius get his revenge in the narrative, and to see that, what was it, Gail actually got to see, like, oh, this kid won.
Yeah. Like it was him.
Yeah.
The fact that he put the dog in there too is such a power move.
Yeah, man. So crazy. And it was, yeah, it was a great episode. And super, like that's what I love about this show. That's why I think it's the best show on television ongoing right now. It has ended technically, but ongoing as far as we haven't seen all of it yet. Because they break television rules with episodes like this, and in this episode they broke Atlanta rules. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. Marshall Johnson, played by Riley from National Treasure.
Yeah, I love this episode too. It's the big payback, right? I'm on the right track. Okay, cool. Just gotta double check. I love that it presents, because reparations as a concept is always like incredibly divisive, even with people who like believe in it. And as far as like how to go about it, like what would be the actual steps to implement it in a fair way. And so this like really presents the idea of reparations in a way that like makes sense, and I think it comes together with White Earn's speech. I think that's really like the thesis statement of it. But it does so in such an absurd, surrealist Atlanta way, where it's like cartoony. It shows like the downside and like what not to do type path as well. And so seeing it through the eyes of that character is great, because he is in a way a victim of this, in terms of like he didn't choose his birthplace either, or his family, and so like he really had no control over the situation. But I think what ties it together so much is that he's happy in the end. Like he feels like the burden relieved. Like when he's working in like such a fine dining restaurant, the ending is just so beautiful that like seeing him like come to terms with this situation that he had no control over is like a rare optimistic vibe for Atlanta. They usually don't they'll have glimpses of it and then kind of take it away from you. Typically, even the previous episode, the first episode, the previous one that we talked about, like when L'Aquarius gets home, like his mom doesn't give a shit. She's like, go fucking do this. Like she's not even on camera. And so it takes away some of that optimism. But this one has like, it still shines through. And I think that's why this episode stood out extra hard for me.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned him smiling, like, because in the photo of E, he's not smiling, and presumably that photo was taken before E had this realization about the curse, and before he kills himself, he chooses to kill himself, and so yeah, I think that's a good sign in Marshall's character. I think that you know, he does kind of take advantage of of a situation in the very beginning. You know, he clearly sees that the barista is not treating this customer well, who is black, and still kind of goes with it, and on top of that, gets away with stealing. And he's given chances to make the situation better. He his friend, I forget his friend's name, at work, tells him, like, just sit down with her, talk to her, and he doesn't. Instead, he goes to his council of white friends, and so
One of the best cuts in the whole season too is when he like gets that advice and it just immediately cuts to them.
and he's like nodding to, like, okay.
Yeah, he's like actually into it.
Yeah, it, it's such a weird episode. I had to watch it twice because, like, you feel bad for him, but then it's like, no, he's kind of he's having so many chances to make the situation better, and he's making it worse, until the very end, and or until his conversation with E. And I think it's a fantastic episode. I agree. Yeah, Justin Bartha absolutely killed it, playing Marshall, and it kind of goes back to that curse theme, like that E mentions in the very beginning of season one, where it doesn't just where the racist history of America doesn't just hurt the black people; it hurts the white people in America too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that opening in conjunction with the bookend at the end, obviously intentional having the same character be like seen at the beginning and then it felt like kind of a thesis statement for the season. It's like this is like overall most episodes are going to kind of come back to this idea of like whiteness as a construct, like if you have enough money and blood, you can become white, I think is also a line he says. Um, almost every episode comes back to like that curse or the quote that like being white blinds you to the what's really going on in the world. And I think this episode is a great example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, like, interesting, like, hearing all these seeing all these pieces of art and hearing all these conversations as an Asian, as someone who doesn't really have who literally doesn't have skin in the game. Um, and I think that's why a lot of Asians go so hard. Like a lot of Asians that I've met, like, have gone so hard on like social justice stuff. Like, I'm not trying to diss them or anything, but I think that, like, we've also lived in, like, in our, at least in our childhoods, in ignorance of how potent this curse is in America, and so a lot of people that I grew up with that were Asian have kind of really taken that to heart and really taken that conviction to heart, and in interesting ways as well.
Yeah.
Miles Warner, not really connected to anything in the Atlantaverse, unless you picked up on something. But yeah, the father of a young boy who was, for the most part, raised by his Trinidadian nanny. Yeah, what'd you think about him?
Yeah, he's a great character too because he's so much more open-minded about other cultures than his wife is. His wife does seem kind of like closed off to like anything, and he's always like, "No, this is like a part of our child. Like this is our child is like absorbed this culture through the person who like actually raised him, and so we like owe it to our kid to like learn about it at least." And I love that because this episode really is like, for me, one of the core themes of it was like how is culture passed? Is it like where you were born? Is it who raised you? Is it who your parents are? And I love that those aren't the same thing in this episode. Is it like word of mouth? Is it like how is culture passed? And so seeing him like seeing the episode through his eyes is really like making the audience try to find that answer out themselves because he's kind of dealing with that. I do think the kid steals the show in this episode. He's absolutely fantastic. When they're praying at church, he's like, "Yes," I'm like, "Hell yeah!" Kid. It's so good. The kid was actually miscredited in this season as as the same kid in Cancer Attack, and so for a second I thought it was. I was like, that's not right. But it's this episode does a great job dealing with how culture is passed, and I think the inclusion of Chet Hanks is perfect for that because everybody was like, this dude's weird and racist and appropriating culture, and then everybody in like Jamaican culture and the Caribbean culture was like, no, like we co-sign him. Like he's like genuinely like respectful about it. He's like doing it authentically, and like we support him. Like you go, King. And so he was like the perfect inclusion of that, and I love the like. That he was like just the older version of the kid. It was great. I love this episode too. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. I agree. Miles Warner. I think the thesis of his character is in that second scene where he's in the apartment and he tries the mango sauce.
Yeah, he's like,
he tries it. He tries it, but
tries
it's
it.
way too spicy for him. and I think that's so perfect for his character. And I also love the there are maternal themes in the following episode. What's it called? New Jazz, where Lorraine takes care of Alfred, even though Alfred didn't, even though she's technically not his mother, and then we also see in here like Sylvia, this person we've never met, this woman, supposedly wonderful woman who's died, has all is like anybody. She's a human being. She's got her flaws. She's got her positive qualities, but at the end of the day, she is also a ghost, and she also kind of haunts Miles and tells him to be better as a father, because you kind of see it in when he's in bed with his wife, like they're just going to go back to the status quo. And I love that he finally opens the photo at the end, and hopefully that gives him a better perspective and a better change in life. We'll see how that. I don't know if we'll see, but yeah, I agree. I agree. I love I didn't know that was Chet Hanks until after the fact, and so I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Chet Hanks also did the White Boy Summer thing, which I still love. That's still like one of my favorite memes. The fact that he didn't change the shirt. Instead, he just made another shirt that said Black Queen Summer.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Shout out Chet Hanks.
Yeah, you gotta watch his interview with Andrew Callahan from like Channel 5 on Gas No Breaks. It's super good, and it like I don't know, they do a good job like showing like giving him a platform to like state his case on everything.
Yeah. Like, and it's interesting the way they've chosen to talk about like racial related controversies in this one, because they actually bring the person in question onto the show, and they don't do it in a way that like condemns the person, but they don't do it in a way that justifies what they did or justifies what they said either. We see that with Liam Neeson, right, who plays an exaggerated version of himself. We see that with Kevin Samuels, who plays a fictional character, but kind of has the same attitude that he does in his, or had the same attitude that he did in his show before he passed away. And I think it's kind of cool the way they, because I think when other shows try to talk about these, it comes off very preachy, very heavy-handed. But when Atlanta talks about modern controversies, and when South Park talks about modern controversies, they do a good job of like laughing in a 360 kind of way, where it's like everything is, we're gonna find the funny in all of it. And speaking of finding the funny, Aaron in Rich Wigga Poor Wigga, man, what are your thoughts on Aaron?
I don't know, because like I do think, and this is going to be maybe controversial, and I think
Ooh.
especially with you, I think this is the weakest episode in the season. And I think that's because of that character. Because I like everybody else more. I get so much more out of everybody else besides him. Like you get, obviously it's like the episode is kind of hinged on this character using his whiteness to get by, and kind of using that white privilege, and then trying to switch when it's convenient for him, and him trying to come to realizations with that. But I think even after he uses his whiteness to avoid being literally shot by the police, he still doesn't seem to learn anything at all. Like there's no, I don't know, I didn't see any change. I didn't see any like realization on his part. The flip side of that coin with like the people judging who's black, and like what makes a person like black, and like what is blackness. The panel of judges are like great cartoony versions that are like over the top and so much fun to watch. And then contrasting that with him, I just like, I don't know, I didn't connect with him at all. Not to say it's a bad episode, because still the worst episode of Atlanta's, especially season 3, is still like 7s and above. Like it's still a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
But I think it just they didn't quite hit the mark with him for me. I didn't really care about the relationship with the girl. I think the payoff at the end where he like the transformed version of him is hilarious, and I think it gives some resolution to it. But I don't know. I just he didn't quite hit the mark for me.
I feel it. I don't know. Like I think, and I could be wrong, but this entire episode is just like one big joke. About even the choice to make it in black and white, to kind of just be like fake artsy. And like they use like really heavy dissolves, and like in Aaron's like transformation into Aaron's decision to build his own flamethrower. It's all super just exaggerated and and like almost campy, and I don't know, like I don't connect with him either, but like his whole like almost every single minute on screen, I'm laughing at him, and I think I think especially after the kind of really crazy, almost scary episode of that is New Jazz, and the chaos of Terade, I think it's a nice like palate cleanser before the big finale, and so I like it for I like the episode for that. I agree that I don't like Aaron, but I don't think we're supposed to like Aaron. I think
No.
he's supposed to just make us laugh, especially with the wink at the end. That's a total Donald Glover move. And I was like, this episode's totally directed by him. And then a second later, it's directed by Donald Glover. I was like, yes.
Yeah. It's not that I don't like him. It's that, like, I think everything else around him is funnier. And, like,
Okay.
anything that's, like, not exactly related to him, I just liked more. And so in comparison, I'm like, I don't care about this dude. Like, I just don't care. Like, I just want more of everything else but him, in a way.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that's totally fair. One of my biggest laughs actually was in the background when the two Asian dudes were trying to copy the Stankonia cover.
That was pretty fucking great.
So good, so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've talked about all the characters and kind of got into the various themes from that. Did you have any other notes about the story, about the tone, about the or about the just overall? Yeah.
Not really. Because I think within our character pathway, we talked about pretty much everything I needed to talk about. I do like that they just went full off the rails this season. I like
Yeah.
that it wasn't narratively like cohesive or like had a through line throughout or like had any sort of predictable structure. I think it kept it interesting, and I was incredibly excited every week to watch. I'm never like I'm especially now in the age of streaming. I'm never watching episodes as they come out anymore, and I did for this, and I think that says a lot. That it wasn't like, oh, I could just wait and binge it all. It was no, I need to see what the fuck they're gonna do this week, and I think that the sporadic nature of the season like kind of lent itself to that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it it definitely wasn't the first like surreal comedy on TV, and I think even Louis predates this, and that kind of had a similar structure and had a similar thing of like let's break the rules in the first two episodes of this series, and but like even kind of taking influence from that show, Atlanta's I think taking that to a whole new level, to the point where we got shows like Dave, which is copying the story of it, and then Reservation Dogs, which is fantastic and a very original story, but it copies the vibe from this show for sure, and the look of it, the aesthetic of it. But yeah, I think should season 4 be as good as this, I think it'll go down as one of the best series of all time. At least in comedy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Give Hiro Murai some features already, man. I need it. Even Donald Glover directed, like, I want him to get into, like, the horror game same way Jordan Peele did. Like, I think he would kill it in that surrealist space. And I just want more from both of them and the rest of the team. I don't think people give enough credit to, like, Steven especially, and the rest of the writing team. Everybody's just working on 110%. It shows. It shows that everybody cares about this show.
I agree. Yeah, Steven's the only writing credit for episode 1, 3 slaps, which did slap.
It do be slapping.
It do be slapping. All right. Favorite episodes then?
Let's do it. How many do you want to rattle off? Like, should we do like a top 3 or something? What do you feel?
Well, you said you had 3 perfect 10s.
Yeah, so I guess we could do that. The finale, Terrard, was an easy 10 for me. I think it was my favorite of the season. It wraps up and kind of reveals Van's through line beautifully. You get so many great jokes, and it hits the highest highs for laughter and the highest highs for like devastation. And what could be better than that? So that was an easy 10 for me. Also making the tens was New Jazz. I think that was also a fantastic episode, especially in terms of like the surrealism and the imagery that they used was fantastic throughout. I loved that we got some meat on the bones for Alfred as a character as well. I just think it's a fantastic episode. And then actually, I think White Fashion was my other 10.
Oh, wow.
I think I think in terms of like traditional Atlanta episodes, this was the strongest for me, um, because it's so poignant. They hit like your role and responsibility as an artist, especially a black artist. They hit like the gentrification thing and the co-opting of cultures at the cost of like such a rare thing, and such a rare like spot for food, like just that simply, and how easily it can be devastated. I think Khalil is great. I think Darius is even greater. And you get some great dark humor, like Khalil saying, "I haven't paid for a meal in 73 police shootings." It is an insane lie. But also that character's like still super genuine and like actually doing stuff to give back to the community. But it's the system that like is fucked up. So he's gonna take advantage of that and also do his best to like make change. And I just love that about it. You also get great Van background. This is the one where she gets accused of stealing a wig, which I presume is the Amelie wig,
Yeah.
based off her description. And you get Hiatus Coyote and Bad Bad Not Good in it. So, like, it's a 10, dude. It's a 10.
Yeah. There's a lot of great dark humor in that, like the Central Park 5 jersey. It's so horrible.
Anything is yours in the showroom. Can I have this? No, not that. Damn, that's the most exclusive shit you got.
Oh man. The mixed guy at the table.
Yeah, that don't sound right. It don't sound right when he says it.
Every time he uses the brush, they cut to Al like,
And he does it so like violently too. He's like,
yeah.
oh, such a good episode.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I love that episode as well.
Yeah, and the All Lives Matter version of his campaign is fantastic. Sorry, what are your favorite episodes?
I also had Terrar and New Jazz, but my third was Sinterklaas is Coming to Town. I had to pick one that had all four of them in it, and I think that one was the one for me that kind of it was released the same night as Three Slaps, and it made Three Slaps make sense especially watching it back to back, and then watching it again back to back was really really rewarding, because it set the tone for the rest of the season. I think the kind of shock and awe that you feel after the death of Tupac, the hilariousness of the fact that they played Hail Mary right after that is so, I can't get over it. It's so funny. And the what's it called? The seeing the baby in blackface for the first time, like it comes out of nowhere. And it's right after Al says, "Man, they love me out here," and then you see and then and then he waves. Ern waves at the baby, and Al looks at him like, "What are you waving for?" So good.
And plus, Paperboy asking for $20K, knowing his bail, just so he could throw it at people after.
Yeah.
It was great.
That was awesome. like when his bail does get paid, and it's like, let me wait till my food comes. So many weird moments. There's the guard taking the tissue and just like kind of slowly patting it and walking away. Like, don't know what that means, but that was hilarious.
I loved Al's prison guard too. He was like asking him for food. Oh, you should get this. You're gonna love it. It's great. Bean soup, I think it was.
Amazing. The manager at the venue like beating up a kid in blackface, thinking that he's hurt.
Why are you making me do this to you?
So good. So good.
Oh.
Yeah, that's got to be my other 10 out of 10. I also do love the big payback as well. I think that was a fantastic episode. But yeah, with New Jazz, I love the scene where he sees the woman crying and like
He's like, "Hey, are you okay?" He's like apologizing and still interrupting.
So good. The kind of just shock of the fact that they would throw a baby around and you hear the baby crying. I was like, oh my god. Horrible.
Insane.
I love it. And of course the conversation with Liam Neeson, I think it's just so brilliant because I did not see it coming at all. It was like I heard his voice and I was like, oh, that's a familiar voice. I wonder who it is. And then he's like, wait, are you? And then they cut to him. I'm like, I was like, what?
Yo. Oh, it's so good. And he's like, well, at least you learned to put it behind you. He's like, no, I still hate the lot of you. Just for a different reason now.
You tried to ruin my career. And yeah, I love Lorraine. Who was that actress, man? I'm gonna Google her right now.
I don't know.
She was fantastic, whoever she was. Ava Gray. Shout out Ava Gray. A fantastic performance as Lorraine. Or the ghost of Lorraine, who knows? I wonder if we'll get a payoff with Alfred's mother and meet her finally, or see her finally. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Tarar was also great. I think it's also the best written episode. Shout out Stephanie Robinson. She's currently a writer on What We Do in the Shadows, which I still need to watch. She has 2 WGA awards for Atlanta. And on top of that, she was a writer on The Killing, which is a fantastic series. One thing that I love about the writing is it Zasha or Zosha? The other friend.
I think they said Zosha.
Okay, her and Shanice are kind of like this. They're like a Greek chorus going through the whole thing. Like,
what's up with this baguette?
And she even says the baguette was worth the wait. I was like, yes,
so good.
That's a whole hand. You guys are eating hands. I think those 2 characters were brilliant. I love how disgusting the ending was. Just the beautiful shot of
such a long hole.
I timed it. It was 47 seconds. I'm pissed.
Him like drowning. He's like, okay.
So gross. It's so gross. The Eiffel Tower looks so beautiful, and it's such a great shot too because her reflection is in the glass.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, great cinematography and really disgusting sound design.
Yeah,
that's what we love about Atlanta. Alexander Skarsgård is one of my favorite actors right now. He's so brilliant, he's. The scene in front of the mirror, amazing.
The scene of Van planting drugs on Alex is one of the funniest scenes in it. The way she like panic runs into the lobby and stuff is great. But you
So
also
good.
get like great like new wave influences in the cinematography too, like the cut-ins of the statues when she's beating the shit out of Emilio with the
Yeah.
baguette. Like the one with like the broken neck behind the friends too is just great. It's just a fantastic episode.
I agree. Alrighty. That was Atlanta season 3. Thank you all for listening. Anything else you want to leave the people with, Jared?
Absolutely not.
Alrighty. Thank you for listening, folks. Follow the Jared Cast, and goodbye.